17 ayes.
17 ayes. The 1997 budget is approved and by the Milwaukee Common Council.
The final vote was unanimous, but not everyone agreed with every item, and the final tax rate was delayed until the council could act on vetoes by the mayor. Finally, aldermen voted to keep city garbage collection at all apartment buildings by overriding a veto. They rejected a guaranteed recycling collection day by sustaining another veto. The final tax rate for city purposes is $10.24 per $1,000 of assessed value. That's 29 cents lower than last year.
This budget we just enacted, I think, makes a number of positive changes. It's for neighborhoods and is also people-oriented. It protects investment in housing through code compliance and nuisance abatement activity. It improves preventive and protective health services in the health department. It maintains existing programs based on solid waste collection. I allocated more funding and agreed with the mayor for more funding in economic development. There was more funding for library and library improvements, and there was more funding for police.
6 different governments collect money through your tax bill. Overall, their combined rate declined by about 16%. The reduction is primarily due to increased state aids to Milwaukee Public Schools, settlement by the Sewage District and suburban communities of past due capital charges, and controlled government spending. You'll find those comparisons on your tax bill, which has a new look this year.
By doing that, the taxpayer will have some idea whether the taxes increase or decrease, both in dollars and percentages, for the various units of government.
About a third of every dollar goes for city services. The remainder is collected for Milwaukee Public Schools, Milwaukee County, MATC, and the Sewage District. A penny goes to the state for a forestry tax and the Regional Planning Commission. But what's the bottom line? Here's an example based on owning the same home and receiving the average citywide assessment increase of 6.1%. With an assessed value of $94,000 last year, your combined bill amounted to $3,187 with the lottery credit. That same house, now assessed at $100,000, has a combined bill of $2,944. There's no lottery credit, but the total bill is still over $240 less than last year. You won't find the lottery credit for 1997 because there isn't one.
A circuit court in Dane County ruled that the present distribution of the lottery credit is unconstitutional. Obviously, there will not be a lottery credit on this year's taxes or tax bill. We will indicate a lottery credit for 1995, but not for 1996. This will be an issue that the next session of the legislature will have to address.
Paying the property tax by mail would be easier than standing in line, but you can come to City Hall and pay in person if you prefer. The office will generally be open Monday through Friday during the tax collection period, which runs through January 31st.
If they obviously want to deduct this year's taxes on this year's filing of federal and state taxes, they will have to get their payment in by December 31st of 1996. However, the actual payment is not due until January 31st, 1997. At that point in time, you must pay the bill either in total or pay the first installment. We encourage payment by mail. We think we have the payment of taxes similar to the payment of a utility bill. We include the bill, we include a self-addressed envelope. We mail back a receipt within 5 to 10 working days. So we make it relatively easy, unless there's a reason for you to come down, that you maybe have an escrow check that is more than the taxes and you would like the money refunded to you immediately, we will do that. There's no question about it. We will give you the money. But if there's no special reason, I think it's much easier just to mail in the tax bill.
Most of the money to pay for city services does not come from the property tax. That accounts for only about 1/4 of what is needed. State aids provide nearly half of the operating budget. Where does the money go? Public safety gets over 40% of your property tax dollar. Nearly 1/3 goes to public works. Health, general government, and other programs round out the list of services covered by the budget. Milwaukeeans might not always like paying property taxes, but they have an excellent record of doing it.
I know, talking to treasurers around the country, they would love to have our problem. Our problem would be a solution for many major cities around the country. So that is true. We have an excellent collection ratio to our tax levy.
This book contains 232 pages on 6 times.
Sherry McGrath loves to read. The Talking Book program helps make that possible. Talking books are narrated versions of reading materials for people who can't use conventional print because of visual or physical disabilities. Cherie began using them in the 2nd grade.
As a 2nd grader who couldn't see real well, this was just opened the world for me. At that time I could see some picture books and things like that, but really for reading it was real difficult. So this just made it, and reading wasn't stressful, it was fun.
And it was just the start. Braille materials and audio tapes helped Cherie to a master's degree and a career in teaching, and they continue to open the world to her. The Wisconsin Regional Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped is located in the lower level of the Central Library. It's operated by the Milwaukee Public Library, paid for by the state of Wisconsin.
We circulate brailled books, taped books, books on records, magazines that are brailled, taped, and on record, audio-described videotapes, and then we also have files so that we can answer reference questions, and we also can search on the internet to answer disability-related reference questions for our users. Last year our circulation was about 358,000 items. We send out about 1,200 items every day and get back that many, which have to be checked in and then rewound often and made ready for the next day. We inspect everything as it comes in, and then we have, our collection is about 75,000 titles and roughly 160,000 items. We're the size of a medium-sized public library like West Allis or Wauwatosa.
The Talking Book program couldn't survive if its thousands of cassette machines weren't occasionally cleaned, repaired, and refurbished. That's the responsibility of the telephone pioneers of America.
We've got over 700,000 members of the Telephone Pioneers. They're both employees and retirees, like we are all retirees. And they volunteer their time in their communities to any project that is needed.
About 75 volunteers in Wisconsin have logged more than 24,000 hours in the past 5 years, saving the regional library nearly $1 million.
In the state of Wisconsin, I think there's somewhere in the range of 8,000 to 10,000 machines that are in service. So we have in the pipeline to repair maybe 500 to 1,000 machines at any one time. What's great about it is the patrons, the people that are visually handicapped, frequently will send us notes saying that they couldn't live without having their cassette player, and they thank us for doing the repair work. And so, you know, that's our reward for it.
The Talking Book program serves about 12,000 individuals in Wisconsin, another 3,000 hospitals, schools, and veterans' homes. About 80% of its users are visually handicapped. The regional library has a number of other services, including scanners, which read printed materials and provide braille printouts or audio.
PS38 will have a very attractive card to sell this year.
In addition to scanners, the library also has enlargers to give the visually handicapped a chance to find out if they'd like to have one at home. Another valuable resource at the Central Library is volunteer services for the visually handicapped, providing materials not available in the Talking Book program. These volunteers transcribe specific requests for printed instructional and recreational materials to braille and audio tape.
They're one of the 3 sources in the state of Wisconsin for textbooks for the visually impaired. And if they did not exist, there would be great difficulty with mainstreaming visually impaired young people.
Before producing individual requests, Volunteer Services searches a national database of other regional libraries.
For example, we have a gentleman on the east side that's a big science fiction fan, and we had to order a number of books by Marion Zimmer Bradley from Texas for him. And we had another gentleman that wanted to read some pulp material that had been printed in the 20s that he remembered from when he was a boy, and we managed to track down the material and get it taped for him by Volunteer Services. So those are both ways we can go.
For additional information on becoming a volunteer or participant in the various programs, contact the Wisconsin Regional Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped at 286-3045. Equipment and services for the Talking Book program, including mailing, are free.
My life would drastically change without the ability to read, be it in braille or on tape. Think of any sighted person. I always have, when I was teaching, I always told my children, you have no need to go to drugs or to alcohol. If you want to get away from your problem, read. You can go in any place in the world or any place out of the world through reading. It's a great fix.
Milwaukee is a city of neighborhoods full of interesting people and architecture. You can learn a lot about them with some unique gift ideas from the Department of City Development. 26 decorative posters for your home or business, each with a written history of the area.
The 26 different neighborhoods are scattered around the city, not all inclusive, but some of the more interesting, mostly the older neighborhoods you find in the city. Many of them feature architecturally significant buildings, churches, landmarks that are in those neighborhoods. And those are available at $2 a piece. Originally produced for the people that lived in the neighborhoods that were pictured on the posters to create pride in the neighborhood that they were living in. The designs became very popular, and we had requests that they be made available to other people as well. So that's why we have them for sale.
Another unique poster, priced at $3, is this reproduction of a turn-of-the-century ad boasting that Milwaukee feeds and supplies the world. Pictures of our city are important in Milwaukee's marketing efforts, and slides are also available to the public.
The ones that we sort of consider our postcard-type shots, we have available in a book for sale to the public at $2 a piece for the slides. We have customers ranging from corporations that are producing brochures that promote the city as a place to come and work for that company. And another popular purchaser of those slides are kids that are going to foreign countries for foreign exchange programs. And they want to take something to show their new families and their new classmates in other countries what Milwaukee's like.
Gift ideas from the Sesquicentennial office include T-shirts or a sweatshirt or baseball cap to celebrate our 150th birthday. Mugs with 150 reasons why Milwaukee is a great place. Sesquicentennial ties and posters. You'll find most of them at Milwaukee Traditions at Southridge and Brew City in the Grand Avenue. The Historic Preservation Office has some holiday suggestions, books to help preserve the exteriors of older historic buildings.
Basically, we felt that there was a need, and people have expressed an interest in receiving materials in some published form that they can refer to for working on their houses, working on their commercial buildings. As Good as New is a guide for the rehabilitation of your historic home, and the tips basically are applicable to anyone's historic property, whether it's in Milwaukee or outside of Milwaukee. And the book is set up so that it gives people instruction on how to research the house first to determine what may have been the original characteristics of the house. There's a section on styles in case a homeowner is unfamiliar with the style of his property. And then the following chapters deal with all the different parts of the exterior of the house. We deal with a lot of renovation going on historic commercial buildings. And again, we get lots of calls from property owners. What's the best way to work on my building? How can I make it look historic? And so we put together many chapters dealing with all the major elements of a commercial storefront. Built in Milwaukee is an architectural overview of the history of Milwaukee's architecture. And it chronicles how buildings developed in Milwaukee from the early pioneer period up until the 20th century, and how styles have changed, what those styles are, what the major public buildings were in the city, how schoolhouses looked, what did the courthouse look like, how did City Hall evolve, and so on. And then chapters on different neighborhoods.
And there are 3 booklets at $3.95 each, which look at the rich heritage of ethnic architecture in Milwaukee's homes, churches, and commercial buildings.
The more recognition buildings like this receive, the better the chances are that, because of the interest that's generated, people will take care and be interested in conserving and preserving and restoring these structures.
When it was known as 3rd Street, Martin Luther King Jr. Drive was one of the biggest shopping districts in the state. Over the years, it became blighted, and many once beautiful landmarks turned into eyesores. That's changing for the better, partly because of the Redevelopment Authority.
We are pleased to announce that the development we embark upon today will be known as King Heights.
King Heights is among a string of properties on King Drive acquired in recent years by the Redevelopment Authority. A public-private renovation of the building, built in 1891 by the same person who designed City Hall, will create 23 apartments, 14 for low-income families, and 4 ground-floor commercial spaces.
It's another example of how a partnership can come together and add value to the community, and that's what we're doing. Adding value to Milwaukee, making Milwaukee a better place to live and work and enjoy life. That's what it's all about, and everybody that's played a part in this should be very proud.
The old Curleaf building is much like a diamond in the rough. And over the months to come, you'll see a transformation not unlike the Hope Diamond.
The ongoing effort to bring new life to the commercial strip has resulted in $18 million in projects, with more than 24 new or rehab buildings in the last 5 years.
Clearly, the reason this is happening is because of its locational strengths, where King Drive is only 30 seconds away from downtown, 15 seconds away from the freeway, and you've got great neighborhoods in Halyard Park and Brewers Hill, and some of the emerging neighborhoods further north in the Harambe communities that serve as the reasons why developers want to come to the area.
And the Milwaukee Redevelopment Authority is a major player, selling land on the historic street to Heritage Health Center, the North Shore Bank, and the YWCA for new facilities.
Every single deal is going to have some kind of public-private partnership. It's going to be a multi-layered approach, and the Redevelopment Authority of City of Milwaukee is one of many public players in the development process. They typically will have ownership of the land and will bring the land as part of the deal. So they will look to offer land up at what I would be considered to be below market rates to make deals happen. Within the last month, we have put together 4 projects on King Drive. 4 projects that were once owned by the city of Milwaukee, which are now being returned to the tax base.
The vacant Sanders building will be renovated for residential and commercial use, as will another city-owned property near King and North. And a city building at King and Clark will become a center for 32 minority-owned businesses.
A lot of these projects, the bank is willing to finance up to a certain amount. The developer is going to bring so much in the way of equity, but then there's going to be this finance gap that the bank and the developer don't have the money for, and that's where the public role can step in, either through RACM or the Department of City Development or through the Milwaukee Economic Development Corporation to fulfill that gap.
So what is the Redevelopment Authority? It's an independent corporation whose express purpose is to eliminate blight and promote development. The Commissioner of City Development serves as its executive director.
The authority, the Redevelopment Authority, was given extraordinary powers to carry on activities associated with redevelopment in blighted areas. For example, the Redevelopment Authority has the ability to issue debt for purposes of raising dollars for investment in business. We also have condemnation powers, which enables us to reach out when we can show a good public purpose and assemble lands, put those lands together, and hopefully put together developments that truly add value to the city. And I think there are any number of good examples of where the Redevelopment Authority has done just that.
The authority played a key role in acquiring abandoned freeway lands, which led to development of East Point Commons. It's guiding development for Westtown, an apartment and commercial project at 7th and Wisconsin. It sold lands at 37th and North to New Covenant for construction of affordable rental housing, and is helping redevelop a city forestry building on Commerce Street for use by Lakefront Brewery.
The corporate entity itself, I think, was a wonderful tool that the state legislature made available to cities like Milwaukee, and in turn, historically, the city has done a real good job of using that tool to bring about economic development and eliminate blight in their community.
While an independent body, there is considerable oversight by the city. Its 7 members are appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the Common Council. 2 aldermen are among the 7 commissioners.
It's one of the most important things that probably in government can be doing right now. It doesn't get a lot of limelight. It's not always a glamorous thing because a lot of it and sometimes maybe technical agreements, cooperation agreements, doing revenue bonds, things that are done more or less by accountants in boardrooms. But that's the financial background to getting these projects up and going, to have jobs created and have people living in decent homes in this community. So it's extremely important, and one of the pressing problems in this community is really the desperate straits that you see in some of our central city in terms of lack of housing, the lack of jobs, the lack of development. And the authority's mission and goal is to see the rejuvenation of those areas.
It's very encouraging to see that entrepreneurs and other business people are coming before the authority with projects to help make the city better. And because I represent an area where we have a lot of blighted neighborhoods and where we need systemic influences and direction and plans to revitalize the district, it's good to be involved in that process, to see that people are coming forward with plans to come back to the city. Many instances we see flight take place because of various situations. Now we're seeing middle class and upper middle class people coming back to the city and helping to invest in the city, and to play a role in that is very good.
Among the frustrations for the commissioners, contaminated lands in the city which can hamper economic development.
And it's extremely difficult to get lenders to grant mortgages or business loans to new housing projects or new economic businesses, manufacturing businesses, to build on such properties. So we're left at a competitive disadvantage to our suburban counterparts.
We see a pressing need to expedite these situations, and we just have to be patient. The greatest thing I've learned since I've been in government is that you have to have great patience. And I think that because we have such an eclectic mix of people on the authority who understand all the aspects of labor, law, and government, we just have to make sure that we're able to effectuate the change that is necessary, and with the Department of City Development assisting us in doing that, we are bound to see and have seen those developments come to fruition and be very impactful on the cities.
Combining the very special tools that the authority has with some of the resources of the city, what you see is an authority that's able to further the policies that are made by local municipal leaders in getting at areas of the city that may have been blighted.
Another way the authority adds stability to neighborhoods is by working with the Housing Partnership Corporation. Homes are rehabilitated for low-income families by private agencies.
Basically, we take distressed single-family duplex properties as well as multifamily complexes, renovate them, and either sell them to low and moderate income homeowners or put them in our management portfolio of affordable housing units.
The nonprofit organization rehabs about 150 housing units a year, some 500 since it began in 1989. It couldn't be done without a special loan program of the Redevelopment Authority.
We've worked with that loan fund with individual lenders as well through a consortium of lenders via the Housing Partnership Corporation. Basically what we've done is pool their low-interest mortgage financing, which is 2%, with private sector financing, which allows us to reduce the overall interest rate in a project and make it more financially feasible. We've also worked with the Redevelopment Authority in the acquisition of existing structures and vacant land. In a few instances, they have purchased buildings, basically on our behalf, turned around and have given those buildings to us or sold them to us at a reduced cost, thereby reducing project costs for us. In a recent example, they had purchased some distressed multifamily buildings, raised them, and have sold us the vacant land, which we are now using to build single-family new construction homes in the city in the Merrill Park neighborhood. Affordable housing development with rental home ownership is very difficult. It takes a lot of different players, both public and private, and the Redevelopment Authority has certainly stepped up to the plate in aiding our efforts and others in this arena.
Since 1983, the Redevelopment Authority has used its bonding authority to provide nearly $385 million to private developers for various projects in the city. It hopes to repeat its successes elsewhere.
We may be involved in a project, and then the market steps in and says, well, wait a minute, there's something here. We can make money in the city of Milwaukee. We can make money in a part of the city that, for all practical purposes, was a little bit dysfunctional and wasn't working as a market center. So there are a lot of opportunities for us to work out there. One of the biggest opportunities I think we have is in the area of industrial development because of our common bond fund that we operate through the authority. To the extent that we can use those dollars to bring jobs and economic activity to places like the 30th Street corridor, which was a humming corridor in the city of Milwaukee when we were at the heyday of our manufacturing era, reuse those buildings, eliminate some of the contamination, environmental contamination over there. That, I think, holds a lot of promise for an organization like Rackham.